Chancellor, Chair of Council, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, graduates. It gives me enormous pleasure to provide the oration today to honour the film director, producer, screenwriter, distributor and actor David Nicholas Wilkinson. David has a long history with the city of Bradford. Although he was born in Leeds, his family moved to Horsforth in 1967. In 1969, the local milkman who had just bought shares in an acting and modelling agency in Bradford suggested he sign up. His career started by modelling clothes for Bradford's Grattan catalogue. His screen debut was in a television commercial made by Bradford's prolific Five Cities Films, based in the old Elite Cinema. In 1970, David was shortlisted to play the title role in Terence Rattigan's West End revival production of The Winslow Boy. The Bradford Playhouse was instrumental in that offer, kick-starting David's successful award-winning acting career. In the 10 years he worked as an actor, he was in over 40 theatre, television and film productions. He won a Best Actor award for his lead role in the play Equus and was the juvenile lead in the TV series The Nearly Man. After David arranged for Spike Milligan's Puckoon to be the closing night film of the 2003 Bradford International Film Festival, he was made a patron of the festival, a role he undertook enthusiastically for over 10 years. Wilkinson worked hard on its behalf and was wholly responsible for awarding the Lifetime Achievement Awards to film industry personnel that he knew: Sir Ronald Harwood, Sir Tom Courtenay, Terry Gilliam and Brian Cox. That's Brian Cox the actor, I think, rather than the Brian Cox the TV physicist, but I might be wrong. David has also distributed 120 films in the UK and Ireland, in the cinema, on video, DVD, on television and online. In 1982, he became the first independent producer to work with the BBC on a film of Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, which starred Sir Kenneth Branagh and was nominated for a BAFTA. He also produced Sir Anthony Hopkins' directorial debut, Dylan Thomas' Return Journey, and Sir Lenny Henry's film Coast to Coast. More recently, David has moved into film directing. The Guardian voted his Holocaust documentary, Getting Away with Murders, partly filmed in Bradford and Keighley, the #1 documentary of 2021 in the UK. David directed, produced, co-wrote and presented the documentary's The First Film, partly shot in Bradford, Postcards from the 48%, and was executive producer of Greenpeace documentary How to Change the World. He has also produced many other documentaries and drama productions concerned with politics, history and social justice. David was an industry expert for the university's MA filmmaking programme. His connection with the city was revived in 2023 at the Bradford Literature Festival, where he organised and chaired an all-day film industry event for Yorkshire's emerging filmmakers. With this work, David has supported the core university values of inclusion and innovation, making groundbreaking films that deal with history, injustice and power, and by consistently supporting film exhibition, production and education in the Bradford region and beyond. Chancellor, for his major contribution to the social and cultural life of Bradford through the cinematic arts, I have great pleasure in presenting to you for the honorary degree of Doctor of the University, David Nicholas Wilkinson.
It's an honour for me, David. So, by the authority vested in me, I admit you to the honorary degree of a Doctor of the University.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Chancellor, distinguished guests and graduates of today, this really is an honour for me. Of all the cities in the UK, it's really important for me that Bradford, as Mark so eloquently said, has such a strong association with me. In fact, Bradford is very much a magical city because only good has ever come from me being here. So thank you again. The University of Bradford has such noble roots. started as a mechanics institute and then became a technical college. My father, who came from a very poor working class background in Armley in Leeds, he left school at 14, but he was determined to have an education because he knew that the only way forward for someone from his background was a proper education. So he wanted to be an engineer, and in those days he had to go to a mechanics institute and a technical college. He would have loved to have come here with everything that is on offer. So I kind of partly accept this in his memory. My degree is, of course, honorary, and I feel slightly a fraud being here among you all because you have done the real hard work, something that I never did. And you should be very proud because you have graduated from a university. Most people in most countries, in most of the world, cannot have further education. They can't go to universities because their countries don't have the resources or the funding. And it's always been a sense of pride being British that so many people from overseas countries come to this country and come to this university because they want a British education. And there are two important attributes I want you to take away, which I think have greatly helped my life and certainly within my industry are very important. The first is perseverance. Now, some of my films have taken actually decades to make, and I've had the door shut in my face time and time and time again. The film that The Guardian thought so highly of was rejected by over 1,700 broadcasters, film finances, private individuals, trusts and associations. But I kept going because ultimately I knew that deep down it was an important idea. So going out in life, in work and within your life, you're going to come across obstacles. You're going to come across so many people who say no, because it's easier to say no than say yes, because a lot of people don't like taking risks. And if they take risk on something and it goes wrong, they get the blame. So if you believe in your idea, you have to persevere, because ultimately you will succeed. The second important attribute, and certainly in my industry it's really important, is networking. Networking, finding somebody who will open the door to the next chapter of your life and career is very important. I'm only here because I met Mark at the Bradford Film Festival, and he thought I had interesting things to say and asked me to speak to the students, and that association became a long one for which I'm very grateful, and I'm here. I became, as Mark mentioned, by accident, the first independent producer to work with the BBC, and this was in 1982. And in those days, the BBC was riddled, absolutely riddled, with Oxford and Cambridge graduates. And you'd find somebody in a position of power who would give a job to somebody else who'd been to the college or university that they had been to. It was absolutely appalling. It was then called the Old Boys Network. So what I'd like you to do is to have the University of Bradford Old Boys and Old Girls Network, because at some point in the future, some of you will be able to help others. And I think that it's really important to keep those relationships going. It can be very hard, but for my generation it was. But now with social media, it's so easy. Finally, the world of the future is changing incredibly rapidly. And you're lucky because all your minds are attuned to new ideas and stimulation. And it may seem obvious to you to keep up with new ideas, but the problem as we, mankind, age is that we tend to get set in our ways. So whatever you do, always keep your mind open to new ideas, because being a dinosaur like I am sometimes is not advisable. The fact that you're mostly young and have these wonderful, fresh minds is your superpower, and you must use it all the time, because ultimately You're the future, and you're going to come up with the ideas and innovations which will help move the world forward. My other advice is not to be in too much of a hurry. We're always in too much of a hurry when we're young. It's natural. We just want to go out and show the world what we can do. In my case, I jumped up the ladder a couple of times, far too much. And it was a mistake because I was found out. And I wouldn't know if you take the progression one step at a time. I think it's really important. Today is the start of a wonderful, exciting, sometimes frightening, sometimes bewildering the rest of your life. It is going to be, for most of you, fascinating, exhilarating, stimulating adventure. We've all got one life, and it's very short. The key to success in both career and life is just doing the best you can. Don't compare yourself to other people. That's a hiding to nothing. Just say to yourself, am I doing the best I can? And finally, don't forget your parents. It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlpool of the way that your life is now going to unfold that you will forget. I forgot. Most young people forget. One of the most outstanding achievements of my life is my family. And I'm very fortunate that my wife and 2 daughters and sister are here. But it took me a long time to realise that. Therefore, as you all move on to start the next part of this journey, keep your parents constantly involved. Update them in what you're doing. They love you. They love you more than anyone else. And without them, you actually wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be able to graduate because they gave you life. And life is a miracle. And now what you do with your life is entirely up to you.